Hi, it's another one of these Zoom casts. We're going to zoom right into the issue right now because some people said, gee, your setup time was so long. Here's Bob Fleisher. Bob is my friend for a number of years. We'll tell you the story in a minute, but I want Bob to be briefed a little bit. He's in Coconut Grove, Florida right now, separated. We're all separated, but I'm in Fort Lauderdale, which is up the road a little bit. And we're good friends for a long time. But Bob is actually from Michigan, and then he moved to L.A. for a while, and back to New York City, where he has a great background and a great history. But that's what we're going to go into. But Bob, I want you to know, because we haven't talked to each other in a while. You know, I've been reluctant to go out with the mask and the gloves and all that, and being in fear, watching people be so close on the beach. The last time I saw people this close on the beach was Where the Boys Are, the movie with Connie Francis, which was in the 50s, if you imagine that I'm that old. But they were all beach party girls and guys. It's called Where the Boys Are. Now, they're doing the same thing. The beach is loaded with people who are not supposed to be on the same blanket. But who could resist? Now, and food. I'm out of food, so we're down to the bird. I'm having a challenge with the bird. You know, I'm eating all of her stuff at this point. I'm down to the pumpkin seeds. Good for the prostate. Listen, let me tell you something, Robert. There's only two people making money, and it ain't artists, and it's not guys like me who are on television or on the new media. We're not making the money. The money is being made by supermarkets and the pillow man. That's all. That pillow guy wears his Christian cross, you know, like they're going to order for Jesus. And I like him. You know, the guy when I was on WABC, you remember this, Bob. He was over there on my show hawking that pillow, you know, which is really... It's supposed to be the best sleep you ever had in your life. Best sleep I ever had in my life was when that check arrived from. What's that on your lap? What is that?
This is Mary.
Mary? You call a dog Mary? Give it a
that was her name. I rescued her.
Oh, you rescue dogs now?
Yeah.
Why?
Because she was in a bad situation. Much worse than the pillow guy.
Tell me about it. So tell about it. How did you rescue her?
Well, a friend of mine called me and said there's this 7-month-old puppy that is in a real bad situation, and we tried to get her a home. 3 good homes fell through for all very good reasons, and my last dog, Ori, passed away 2 years ago, and I didn't think I was quite ready yet, but after several good homes fell through for Mary, I called up my friend and said, look, I may not be ready, but I'll take this little puppy. By the way, tell the lady I'll take her and ask her what her name is. And she said, she'll come over tomorrow and her name is Mary. So it was like having a blind date and having to move in.
Nobody ever calls their kids Mary anymore. They don't call them Elizabeth. You know, nobody uses those names. Jane, Betty. You know,
right. So this is Mary. This is Mary Fleisher, and she's very happy.
I'm glad.
And I'm on my couch, so she'll fall asleep.
Now you don't have any paintings of her yet, do you?
Not yet, but probably like Ori, I put him in several of the paintings.
Oh, I know. Well,
so she'll end up being in a couple.
How long do you have Ori? About 15 years or 10 years?
He lived to be 16 years old, and he could see, no cataracts. He could hear. He was funny. Up till the end, he was a great communicator. Did I bring a picture of him? I don't have a picture of him. It's back there, but he was a great guy, and he had a really good life. He knew what burger was and salmon. And Mary's learning words like pee and poop and burger. So she's loving it here.
Well, I have a great love for pets like you do, and we keep our pets for a long time. The bird now has a depends. You know, I mean, this is.
I love Ozzy. Ozzy is in my latest painting.
Don't encourage her. She chewed the wire on an interview the other night on a Zoomcast.
Yeah.
It rained, and she was chewing the wire. It was just a wonderful broadcast. You know, I don't count the hits, the amount of people that click on something, because I don't trust ratings. I never liked them. I'm not about how many people are.
Hmm.
I don't care how many people click. I care how much of an influence we've made, even if it's for one person. And that's a hard concept in a commercial world, because people think they're selling stuff by repeating the product, you know, because it's forcing people. And you know, New York television and Miami the same. They have these screaming car commercials, and
Yeah.
it makes me crazy. And I'm in the business, and I hate it because
Yeah.
do you buy a car because someone screams at you?
I mute it.
Well, who the hell buys a car in a pandemic online? Who would buy a Mercedes when there's this kind of a virus? You could die.
Right.
You could die going outside, and you're going to go buy a Mercedes online and have them deliver it to the house and polish it for you. Why would we do that? Where's the sanity in that?
Not sure. But you know, you and I have a lot in common, Joey. And one of the things that I have always lived by, and you have too, and you just mentioned it, just touched on it. It's really important. And we talked about it the other day. And it really struck a chord in me we have both been successful through attraction, not promotion.
Yeah.
And I've never been a good self-promoter, but I always wanted to do the best work I could so that people would be drawn to it. And the people, quote unquote people, have kept me going. Like what your daughter Kristen said to me the other day about her and Alvin waiting for my Christmas with those. That really moved me. That's because, you know, we all are filled with self-doubt and trying to stay relevant in our own minds, you know, during not just this pandemic, but throughout our whole careers. It's a struggle for me to stay relevant and try to save the world. Back in the 60s, we believed music and rock and roll, art, literature could change the world. And I believe that. I bought into it. And I still do. And that's why I just saw a little of Ozzy.
Yeah, she's come over now.
Yeah, come on, Ozzy.
Had enough
there we go.
Enough of the perch. She's on the porch.
Ozzy, I put you in my latest painting, On Your Daddy's Shoulders. Anyway,
go ahead. That was very important. And now I'm going to have my ears pierced by her.
I love it. Well, just that that's the most important thing to me, is trying to say something in the work that was meaningful, not just to me, but to a universal audience. And so my creative freedom was a puzzle, like any artist or anybody in the creative world, whether you're a musician or a writer or a talk show host.
So I'm with Robert Fleisher. He's with us. And we're Zooming across Florida, which has opened up dangerously. There are people who are hanging around the beach and having a good time too close. And they're starting to shop. Where I left off a couple of months ago, and then we started to drive carefully. People were driving 6 feet apart. They were driving the way they were walking in stores, you know. And everybody got, now the weather's nice and everybody thinks it's all over and it's wonderful. We're back into La La Land, and it's dangerous. Well, as you know that, Bob, you're in Coconut Grove, which is a walking town. I mean, it is a walking town.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful place. It's one of the nicest spots in all of Florida. Very, very rich too, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of wealth.
A lot of trees.
Yeah. Well, not only trees, people who plant them and own buildings. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of wealth in Coconut Grove. It used to be a beach community, but now it's become a landing spot for wealthy real estate people. Yeah,
people want to have their offices here and they want to live here, and it's gotten crowded, but it's still great. I can walk into town, but I'm going to do what somebody I heard, a comedian, I don't know who it was, said. I'm going to let the people who want to go to the bars and go to the restaurants. I'm going to let them do that for the first 2 to 3 weeks, see if there's a spike, and then I'll go out. But I'm going to stay home. I'm going to follow the doctor's orders, and I'm listening to the doctors and the scientists on this one.
Well, I like what the governor of New York, who is the last one to open up the city, because it is a vertical city. But he says that yesterday that the people going to work are the problem. I mean, they're not the problem. People who are staying home are the problem. People going to work are not catching it as much as the people who are not working. That's something like that. I guess
it's the easiest thing to do, to stay home while the frontline people are risking their lives. The bus drivers, Detroit lost a couple of bus drivers early on, and I have a friend that works at Sinai Hospital, and she lost a 41-year-old friend. And he lost his mom and dad, who just were shy of celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. And his sister is pulling out of it. She's lost her brother and her mom and dad. Her parents, Mario Jr.'s parents, were both professors. They were described as noble people. They should still be here. So people have to take this seriously right up until we have either a vaccine or we figure this thing out. But I go taking Mary for a walk, and I'm the only one wearing a mask. So
are we going to figure it out?
I'm sorry?
Are we going to figure it out?
Oh, I hope so.
Do you think so?
I think we will. I mean, the whole world is trying to figure it out. Scientists all over the globe.
Yeah.
I hope that politics and money don't get involved, but that's wishful thinking.
Yeah. Well, it's already there. Unfortunately, I think we're destined to not live to be like this woman I'm about to show you, who is 103 years old, and she lives in Pompano, Florida, and they gave her the outdoor treatment of the salute of the fire department and the police. I'm just accessing it. Hold on here. And this is the woman. I don't know if you can see this or not. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's 103. She had an outside birthday party. The police and fire and everybody came to honor her outdoors. And they all practiced, look at the lawn here, they all practiced separation, which is what you do. And even at 103 years old, she has not that much time to go by the book. She still is a queen. I mean, that's black people call the women a queen. That's my queen. It's a traditional expression that honors the women in the family, because women have had to do a lot of the heavy lifting through the years,
right,
in raising a family. And go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the greatest generation. My dad was a navigator in a B-17. He passed away, 13 years ago. But I mean, the people that have survived till now are from World War II, the Korean War generation, and we should honor them more than we are, by taking care of the senior citizens and the veterans, homes for veterans. It's a struggle in this land of
freedom.
So much media.
Freedom. Everybody does whatever the hell they want to do. That's freedom, isn't it?
Yes.
So, except when you live with my father, there was no freedom. That was you're going to.
I remember.
You're eating my food.
Your dad.
You're in my house, and you're going to follow my rules, and that's why I left.
I remember your mom very fondly.
Yeah, my mother was a pretty interesting woman. I'm going to have a little bit of a shot of her later on. I want to show her on camera, but I want to talk about you. This is very important to me as your philosophy, because, in my opinion, you're the best watercolor artist in the country. And I think that you make all your paintings look like photos. Not all of them, because you do a lot of pencil work and litho work. Every year, you issue a social statement with your work. That's what my daughter was referring to as the Christmas gift that you give every year. You have you make copies for all of your friends of whatever the social message is. And you draw that simply. But it always involves something that's going on the streets with the, I don't call it normal. I hate that new normal. It's regular people, not normal people. Because normal is a state of mind. Regular is people who are doing what the majority knows is right. It's the group collective consciousness. That's regular. And the regular people in the United States sometimes get dwarfed by these special interest groups who are organized enough to push the regular people out of the way. Because regular people are not essentially forceful, pushy, irreverent, unkind. They're not seeking fame and fortune just to have a false god. They're not that way. Regular people don't do that in this country. That's why we're always appalled when we do something wrong. I know it. When I do something wrong, I know it. I know what's right from wrong. It's inside of me. It's a clock. I know when I'm wrong. Now, I don't know about you. I can't speak for you, but I think that we each have that clock.
Well, my dad always used to tell me when I was growing up and I would have trouble with somebody in school, or what do I do about this? He would say, instead of telling me what to do, he would just say, let your conscience be your guide.
Yeah.
And that seemed to always work, because even though people do things that are bad when they think nobody's watching, that's when we make bad decisions most of the time. There's always somebody watching, and that's the viewer, that's you. But I gravitate to not just the ordinary people, but a lot of times the forgotten people, which is, or the unsung people, the ones that make tremendous contributions to this world without any fanfare or recognition. Well, like some of the interviews that I've watched you do of some of the people that I've hung out with you, like Ronald Luxemburg and David Bernstein, those were great conversations. The people that are fantastic, and Don Oriolo. I mean, I've heard of him, but I never met him before, and I'm a big fan of his now after listening to your interview with him. But these are people that are exceptional, but aren't famous. And we've talked about this for so many years, getting stuck on the LA freeways or in New York City, wherever we are. We've always talked about this mystery of the club, of the famous, how you get into that club and what it is. I mean, I never got a handle on how to go after the fame or chase the fame. And when George Harrison, of all people, said fame is the biggest waste of time, that took a big weight off my shoulders, because I stopped chasing after it. I stopped internally wanting it and just focused on doing the best work I could do for, people who have kept me going. It's the art world is caught in a place of chasing fashion to keep the gallery doors open, and I totally get that. But when you chase after fashion to keep the doors open, you lose track of what might be good. And I had a conversation with a art director for a gallery once who said it was a lot like that contemporary art was a lot like rolling a big boulder up a hill looking for something that was new, never had been done before. And I said, well, what about good? And he looked at me. There was a moment of crickets. And I'm reminded about this thing that you brought up with Banksy, this anonymous artist that does this graffiti on buildings in London and New York.
But nobody knows who that Banksy is.
Nobody's seen him. They don't know what he looks like, and that's the hook. Like the fish that hung in your office in LA in the 20th century. Everything needs a hook. That's when I met you, and that was my first impression of you walking in. You had no reason to see me, and I had no reason to see you. I had nothing to sell. Scotty Regan told me to go see you because I'd been working with the Beach Boys, and I had one extra day in LA, and I said, Scotty, what do I do? He goes, go see Joey Reynolds. So I called you. You were director. You were busy working on a little movie called Star Wars, and you actually saw me, and we became friends like that. And it's been 42 years.
Now, if you had come a week earlier, you would have been one of the artists for Star Wars. But
Well,
you see, it wasn't meant to be.
that's
And
the story of my life.
well, it's the story of our lives. Look at me. I mean, Howard Stern took my spotlight. I was the first shock jock, but he made it fashionable. He made it with money behind him, power behind you. There's a force that is, I don't know how dark it is. I don't know how evil it is, but it seems to run the damn place, and it's frustrating for people like us because, well, first of all, we're not in it. But we never wanted to be in it. You referred to our conversations on the freeway in LA and all the talks we've had throughout the years. We never really wanted to be that. I don't want to be Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's the last thing in the world I want to be. If I had money, you know what I would do? Spend it.
Yeah.
I don't care about all this.
Probably in a really good way, not on gold.
Well, no, it would be for my work is about other people, because I learned a long time ago that if you want to keep it, you got to give it away. And I don't know any other principle but that works. Everybody else that puts it in a sock, and even Les Paul, my wonderful longtime mentor, Les left $115 million. You know that, right?
Yes, I do.
And when he was in the hospital, I asked him, I said, he said, I hope you're not here for my money.
Oh, and my God.
I said, you're not going to give me any of your money? And he said, no. I didn't even know how much he had. You're not giving me any? He said, no. And I said, I'm out of here. And I went to the door of the hospital. I said, you're not giving me any money. What am I doing? I'm wasting my time with you. And I said, that's ridiculous. I never was here for the money. I mean, since when? He wore Payless shoes. I mean, we never had any interest in the money. When I was making the cheesecakes, as you know, you were helping me with a lot of this stuff. I was making them out of my apartment on 46th Street in New York, and Les had a driver take him over to make sure I wasn't just saying I was ordering them from a bakery and putting my name on it. He said, I want to watch you make this. He wanted to see how authentic I was. This is at the very beginning, years ago. And he saw I was making the cheesecakes there. And he said, I'll be a son of a bitch. I said, yeah, well, I do make them. I make them by hand. I make them with love, and I make them with care.
And authenticity. You're authentic.
And you did the cover for me. You did the painting of the cheesecake cover. And you also bought the printing. I mean, you've always been a generous friend. We've been friends. We're helping each other with everything that we have. But we never went for that other. I never wanted to be the biggest television star. I really didn't. And I never wanted to be the richest guy in the country. I don't aspire to that.
Yeah.
But I want to be left alone and be comfortable. I do want that. I like having people notice me reasonably, but I want the right people to notice me, not fans. Right. Fans are a pain in the ass because all they do is stick their nose in your food, and they follow you around with cameras, and they worship you. Who needs to be worshipped? I don't need to be worshipped. Right. I need to be respected, not worshipped. Now,
it's real. And it's like what Winston Churchill said, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And Les was always very generous with his advice and his time. And, I've known people who are, I had a family who were very successful. I had an aunt and uncle, and you couldn't talk to them about money because they were very guarded about it. And I never chased after that. I never even knew what it was to chase after. The fame game is just it's smoke and mirrors. I never did understand it.
Well, that's why they call it. That's why they named the bank Chase. That's what people do.
I just don't understand it. So
I never embraced it. And the thing we want to do right now is go back to something. What the hell do we want to go back to that economy for? That's the last thing in the world I want to go back to. I hated it because everybody got greedy and corrupt, and it got stupid. I mean, what? So I could have 15 shirts and 27 pairs of pants and 3 cars. Is that what I'm living my life for that?
Exactly.
And to have it's material things are great, but if I'm living my life so that I can have the most of all of this stuff, or more than you, and I can brag about it, what a waste of life! It's a waste. We've always had the same life philosophy. And we've talked about life as a school,
and the lessons that it's trying to teach us, not unlike real school, reading, writing, and arithmetic, these lessons are given to us. You know, people always say, oh, look what happened to me. No, it's about what happened for you, how you deal with what happens, and doing the honorable thing. I've always lived by something for the last 35 or 40 years. I read a book by Kahlil Gibran, and he wrote a poem. He was a Lebanese artist, theologian, and poet. He died in 1931, and he wrote something like, what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. And I get a little emotional just thinking about that little poem, because it's basically my mantra through all the lonely, solitary hours of, you know, trying to do this work. And now I find myself at, you know, our age, and I'm painting now for the future. I don't think of myself as painting for my time, because artists generally have to pass on before their work gets recognized, because it takes a lifetime to create a body of work to be judged. And so I'm just kicking out as much of the best work I can do with the time I've got left, and with love, and not profit or fame or anything what you were just talking about. So, you know, we've had such great conversations. You've been such a great friend over all these years, a mentor. You've introduced me to several of the commissions that I've been lucky enough to receive have come through introductions you've made. You know, the Wayne Newton, Mickey Rooney, Yoko Ono. I mean, all these people I met through you.
Wait. Well, let me tell you something. When I introduced you to Les Paul, you went out and made a guitar.
I actually made
from scratch with wood. You got some of the samples there. Let's go into your little vault here.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead. Talk about it first, if you want to. Robert Fleisher. He made the guitar.
This is a block of wood that I got from the lumberyard, and 2 years later I turned it into this, and then this. So it took 2 years, and I'll show it to you. I have it right here. It's the love of my life, except it doesn't talk to me. And Les signed the back of it. It's 22 years old now, and it has it's just like a Hofner, but it has my last name on the headstock, and Barlini pickups in it. So it's a great instrument. I played with a bunch of great musicians in New York, old session players, Alex Garvin and John Leamy, great drummer. Alex has been in a band. I got to give a shout out. But I just want to, try to do the best that I could with it. I'd never made a guitar. And the great thing about working at Carnegie Hall was that I was able to show this piece of paper to Paul McCartney one night. And he went, straight up, man. It's great, man. We talked about 10 minutes about it. He asked me all sorts of questions. What a great gentleman. And we had a few encounters after that. He always remembered me. Yeah. But it was a great thrill, something I'll always remember.
Yeah, so he's carried. I think he's carried himself very well with all of this craziness that we're talking about. It was a phenomenon, and he came through it with sanity, some sanity,
and grace.
And he had grace and character. Now, you know, the other thing too. I was thinking about this. You have created these social messages that we mentioned. Now, there are people who are getting celebrated now. They're on television. They're showing people who are painting walls, which used to be graffiti on the trains and the subway in New York, and on buildings that were being demolished or were being ignored. So the art became the neighborhood artist who probably was seeking some sort of fame, And there are people who walk a tightrope across building to building. You know, the fly from who walk across Niagara Falls. They like being famous. And there's a spark of it in everybody, I think, when you do the work. But acceptance, maybe. Fame, I don't know. So as you are doing this work in your place, and we're going to show a little bit of it, you have not been seeking that. You haven't been doing buildings and sidewalks. And there was someone on TV the other day that was known for a neighborhood in Miami. It was a building that was all done because of the front workers, you know, but under the guise of being a champion for the first responders. It's someone will hide behind something like that or exploit it and make themselves famous and popular. Sometimes they do it with books or shows, you know, radio and TV shows. And that is not so genuine. And I see through that like a laser beam. And that's what I don't like about fame. Because I think, what? Go ahead.
It's day trading, like they say. It's getting the moment, capturing like a moment, and the premise is to do something for the first responders, to do a mural, and it's a nice intention, but it really is about making yourself recognized, famous, getting on TV, showing your mural. I never chased after that. It's short term. You get on the news for a 30-second spot, and then it's over with. And I think the longevity is being authentic and in what you want to do, and the quality of the work is, and being honest about it. And I think there's something deceptive about using this kind of plight for yourself aggrandizement, you know, to be famous for a moment. I mean, I don't even do interviews, Joey. This is like the first real interview. I would be on your show on the radio and say as little as I possibly could.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a front of camera person. This is very unusual for me. You're the only one I would sit down with like this, because we've known each other for so long. And I just want to show a picture of one of my favorite pictures of you and your daughter.
Oh, that's great.
Kristen, when she was a little girl. She's got 2 kids now, 2 grandkids.
Yeah.
And this is another one of my favorite pictures I took of you and Les Paul and Dick Clark.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and I can't forget Sid.
Sid Bernstein. He brought the
Sid
Beatles
Bernstein. Here. Yeah, good old Sid. What a great guy. I mean, and an honor to know him.
Yeah. And at Carnegie Hall, we sat with David Randolph on the stage, violating the union rules, as it were, because no one is supposed to be on that stage without performing. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. One of the things I referred to earlier was the creative freedom. And I got a job at Carnegie Hall through my friend Jenny Curry, who was a painter. She convinced me to apply, and so that funded my creative freedom in my studio. So when I got to know David Randolph, who had conducted the St. Cecilia Choir from the middle 60s, 1965, until his passing, I went up to him after getting to know him, and I said, David, he never wanted to be called Maestro. He said, don't call me Maestro. So I'd say, David, look, I got this friend. He's a really good guy, and he's on WOR radio. You got a great radio voice. Little did I know he had been on the radio, but I said, I want to put you on the radio with them. You'd be great. And he says, I don't want it. I can't talk anything about classical music. I don't know anything, and I don't want to. I said, he was afraid. And then it turned out he was a regular, because you won him over with your genuine authenticity, your interest, just who you are. I mean, and he and Mildred, his wife, became good friends, and he was on the radio with you a lot. And when he invited us to sit on the stage for a rehearsal, I mean, that had never been done before. And we got away with it for quite a while.
And Sid Bernstein. We brought Sid, don't forget.
Yes, that's right. And
Although
we
he
got
used
away
to,
with it for quite a while until the stage crew, who I love very much, I was always very good with. We always had a good relationship. I still am in touch with some of them. They had to ask us to leave the stage. So,
yeah, I know. But you also did a painting of the orchestra conducted by
Leonard Bernstein.
and
Yeah.
the Russian orchestra, which a concert that never took place, but you put the pictures of your friends in all of the
Right.
orchestra
And
players.
you're in it too. You're playing a
And,
violin in the orchestra.
some celebrities do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd sneak into my paintings whenever I could. But I worked with Leonard Bernstein backstage, and he was an amazing person that if you met Lenny for 10 minutes, you would never forget it. He was genuinely curious about you. That was his strength, which is what your strength is. You're interested in other people. When you talk to somebody, you're totally into talking to that person. The Sid Caesar interview that you did for an hour on WOR was brilliant. And I wish there was some way to get to that so people could hear that interview. Sid Caesar had never been interviewed like that before. And Skitch Henderson, I mean, so many people. And even you got David Randolph to talk, about other things.
Well, let me tell you about him for a minute. I said, you're a Jew, and you conducted the Handel's Messiah 175 times in the Guinness Book of Records.
That's right.
I said, why are you doing a Christian and a Catholic song, or hymn?
Handel's Messiah.
Yeah, Handel's Messiah. And he said, the music is not religious, only the lyrics. And he said,
That's
if
right.
I conduct the Ave Maria, it's the music, not the lyrics or the Star Spangled Banner. It's not the music. It's the lyrics that make it patriotic. He said, so music unto itself is what I'm interested in. He was wonderfully, he was a good teacher just by being himself, a good model. And you are too. So now, on that note, you're welcome. On that note, you have some things that I would like you to share with us on the show. This is the show, a series of people like you that I am doing. So you're right. It's people who are deserving of the spotlight and not necessarily seeking it. And I wanted to have a bunch of people to talk to or to chat with or hang out with for a half hour or so that you would not ordinarily have over the house, go out to lunch with or go to dinner with, or you wouldn't know them, but you really would get to know them through this series. That's what I've been trying to do here. Mm-hmm. And I don't care how many people watch it. I really don't. Although there are people who do care because they count clicks and they count commercials and all that crap that I'm so bored with it. I could throw up. I hate it. Mm-hmm. And I've hated it from, I was the number one rated disc jockey in America in 1965, 6, 7, or 3 years in a row. I won the Billboard Awards and I had a 60 share. And people used to say, you have all these ratings. I said, I don't care. I never lived off of that. And I never cared about it. And even at WOR, 15 years almost with the all-night show for 5 hours, I never cared about how many people heard me. They all went to bed while I was talking. What do I care? It's there. You just put it out. But we're in a society that want to measure everything. They want to measure everything. They want to have the blue states and the red states and the orange states and the Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Trumpers and Republicans and Democrats. It's such bullshit. All of it. It's just such a waste of time. And then you have CNN who can't stop talking about the Democrats and Fox that foxhole that can't stop talking about the Republicans. And they both have the same story, which is nothing. If I hear one more political announcement when we really don't need to have an election right now, what we need is a cure for this virus. That's what we need. Put everything on the cure for the virus, not these guys running for office. Tell them to go home.
Right. Congressmen,
senators, we all know they're on the take anyway with the lobbying and payoffs and favors. Come on. The reason I like this society right now, and you are one of the heroes of it, is because there's an even playing field right now. Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody. I don't care how much money you have, how much fame you are, how big a star you've been, how many awards you have, how many times Oprah called you, or how you've been to the White House. It doesn't matter. We're all in the same boat. You all want to stay alive
That's
and
right.
escape the bullet. We're trying to escape the virus that we don't know where it came from, not necessarily, and we don't know when it's going away, and we don't know how we're going to solve it. And we keep wanting to go back to something that we understood with something that we don't understand. That's the reason that I'm mad. Because what are we going back to something like that for? You want to go back to something you knew how to handle with something you don't know how to handle. You can't take a broken hammer and you cannot fix a broken hammer with a broken hammer. You have to have a new tool. It's a principle in life. And so we don't have any of these heroes running the government. We don't have anybody coming out of the woodwork. We don't have anybody who's got an idea and a vision and who wants to lead us. I'm not looking for Moses. I'm not looking for Jesus, but I'm looking for someone who makes some idea about how we're going to get together, not how we're going to have our idea be separate from your idea. My ideas are always going to be different than yours because my personality is different. There's 350 million people here.
You know, you mentioned something before, just a second ago, about your priorities. And Konstantin Stanislavski, the great acting coach, said, "Love the art within you, not you within the art."
Yeah.
And you've always been an artist of thought. I've always said that you're an artist of thought. I work in watercolor. Your mind has always been sharp and amazing. Myra Channon always said you always had a vault for a mind. You knew so many people and could draw from their experiences. You, because of your interest, much like Leonard Bernstein, you were always very curious about people, and which is why we became friends. There was no reason for you to see me all the way back in 1977 or 78. But you said we were all in the same boat together, and that leads me to wanting to show something to the people who are watching. My latest, because we are all in the same boat with this situation we're all in, that I wanted to share this with everybody. You and Ozzy, your bird, are on this boat. Let's see if I can do this right. And this is the watercolor of the boat. We're all in. And there's Joey and Ozzy. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
But it's just a simple idea, a whimsical idea. You're playing the tambourine and you're piloting the boat. I know this is tough to show on a Zoom broadcast, but you know, I didn't do that painting for any other reason than just to make that simple statement that we are all in this together. The African drummer lady, my building engineer who's playing the guitar, and one of my best friends of driving the boat, all because of proximity. Ernest, who plays the guitar in this painting, is here every day. My friend Jenny Curry went to Africa and took that picture of the African drummer lady. I wish I knew her name. But this virus is hitting Africa now, and right now it's hitting Mexico City really bad. There was a report by Sky TV, which is an English channel, Sky TV out of London. They got into Mexico City covertly because they don't want people to know about it. The president of Mexico apparently didn't take this seriously, if that sounds familiar at all. But it's got to be taken seriously because we've lost Wynton Marsalis, his father, and you and I and Frank and David Bernstein and Ron Alexenberg, Don Oriolo, we're all in the same boat. Jim Boldbrook, who did a great interview of you, we have to take this seriously from where we are. I mean, there's another quote that I love that Teddy Roosevelt said, do what you can with what you have from where you are. And I've always, when I was really struggling, and thanks to my family and my friends, people like yourself, my family has been my main supporter, and my friends. I have a few good friends, and the people that have connected to my work, just ordinary people, have kept me going, and I'm good with that, because I get reactions like what Kristen said the other day to me. That really is like, rocket fuel that keeps me going. It's the jet fuel that emotionally keeps me relevant in my own head. That something that I'm doing must be right, even though I'm not famous and I shy away from interviews. You've called me a recluse, and I am. I don't like the fame game. I don't chase after it. I'm very uncomfortable doing it. I was a little uncomfortable doing this because I didn't think I'd be entertaining enough, because, all your other guests are very entertaining, and you're natural at it also. I'm not. So I just, I'm grateful to be a part of this archive of some of your dearest and closest friends and people that have influenced your life and had an impact on you. I remember when I was living in the 6-story walk-up with the landlord that ended up on Rikers Island. I didn't have any money, but
Leonard
I knew
Spodak. He was a
I knew that
Dracula landlord in New York City. Leonard
you
Spodak.
You had tapped your shoes, nailed your shoes to the door, and you needed to make it right with Buckley. And I remember giving you, you were out of work, and I put you on a train. I said, you just got to say you're sorry and, correct this. And that got you that, years later, the WOR gig, and David Bernstein put his proverbial butt on the line for you, and it paid off. That was a great story, by the way.
It's true. But, you've always been there. You've been a good friend with everything. And you have journaled everything that I've done. When I did the satellite show in 1977, it was the first satellite show. And you were there every week taking pictures, right?
Taking pictures. Lauren Green, Vincent Price. I've got all those pictures, and I've given many of them to you. I've documented a lot of your journey, and I was, really glad to do it, because, you're unique and one of a kind, and you got to keep doing this, Joey. Just keep doing it.
Well, you too.
I love these Hangout videos. I'm addicted to them. This is your strength. This is your show. This is what you should be doing, on a network. Maybe, this is a network, really.
You get the help that you want to have if you really are. I don't know. I don't even know the key. I just know that we've had we were mentioning it in this talk. Look at all the famous people we've had in our lives. They're mm-hmm. legendary, from the guy who brought the Beatles here to whether it's Joan Rivers or George Lucas with Star Wars, or look at the people that I worked with and the people that I've been around. And I've never been one of them, but mm-hmm. I've been with them. Isn't that curious? And many of them are now not with us, unfortunately, because I really miss their company. They were brilliant people. You've had that.
When you put in 100%, and I put in 100%, and I think that when whatever you do, whoever's watching this or hearing this, these aren't my words, but when you put in 100% of what you do, it's contagious, and people organically want to become part of what you're doing, because they sense if you're putting in 100%, then I want to be part of that. And that's what is attracting people to you throughout your whole life. That's why, getting back to how we started this, my success is through attraction, not promotion. I've been at this now for almost 50 years. This little watercolor tray, this little watercolor tray I've had for almost 50 years. Everything that I've done has come out of this. And I didn't care about promotion or fame, especially after hearing George Harrison talk about it. and meeting Paul McCartney was such a thrill. And he was just such an ordinary guy,
Because
just down to earth.
he's genuine. But you know my favorite painting of yours? You know what it is? Not one that I'm in, but the guy with the rope.
Oh, the rope trick. Yeah. When you change the way you look at things, the way you look at things change.
Do you have that around?
It's in the other room. I can get it if you want, but I hate to leave the shot here. But you can go to my website at robertfleisher.com.
I'd like to end this time.
You want me to get it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is the rope trick, which is a very famous Indian trick that nobody knows how to do. I've seen a film of it, and I couldn't figure out how they did it. But I just made it kind of whimsical by putting this little message in there.
What does it say?
It says,
when you change the way you look at things, the way you look at things changes.
And I think Wayne Dyer said that.
Oh, yeah?
I think the first time I heard that, I think Wayne Dyer or Deepak Chopra said that, but I think it was Wayne, and I jotted it down because nothing is an original thought. A lot of the stuff is thousands of years old, and I hung on to that until I figured out how to use it. And then I saw this film on magic, and this guy took a basket and some rope to a small village in India, put it on the ground, and the rope went up, climbed up the rope, and came down the rope. Nobody could figure out how it happened. If anybody can figure out how the Indian rope trick actually happens and works, there are a lot of people that want to know. So,
well, people will try to
just
figure
whimsical.
Out. They want to know their way around the ropes. That's where it comes from. Right?
Yeah. So the guy in the rope trick is in the Carnegie Hall uniform. It was my way of making fun of, my costume I had to wear, which, by the way, Carnegie Hall is a great place to work. Amazing people work there. I mean, it's only a building, as Isaac Stern would say, touch the walls, but it's made up of people, the audience, the people that work there, the people that play there. Many times, like Paul came to listen to many concerts. He would come alone and come with his date at the time. And
a lot of people came there and acknowledged you. Paul Newman, for one thing. I mean, we've been around all these celebrities. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward became friends of mine. We exchanged Christmas cards for 15 years. Yeah. And he would always talk to me, and this is also another important thing. Paul Newman believed in luck. He always talked about luck. And luck is the residue of preparation. So you prepare, you do the busy work, you do the grunt work, you do it all, and that helps to create the luck that will happen. We call it luck, but Paul believed in. I mean, Joanne Woodward was already famous on Broadway when he got a bit part, and it was through Joanne that I think opened up all the doors. I mean, he didn't have to. At the time, it just needed a little squeak of a door opening. She did it. And so he felt that he was the luckiest guy in the world, and they always held hands. They would always leave the theater holding hands.
And so what happened with the person who ran Carnegie Hall? What's his name? Isaac Stern?
Isaac Stern, he became a great friend. He
took your painting and put it in the gift shop, right?
The orchestra painting I had prints made of it, and it was sold out of the gift shop for years, and it's all over the world. But Charles Osgood bought one, and he put it on Sunday morning with Charles Osgood for a couple of seconds. But I've had a lot of run-ins and a lot of great encounters with famous people, but the lesson is that they're just like you and me. And this is what the pandemic is showing us. We are all in this together. It affects the rich, the poor, the famous, the obscure, the forgotten people. All get it. I mean, we're all potentially susceptible to this thing, and we can't let our pride and our egos get in the way of doing what is sensible for each other. I mean, I wear a mask to protect the other people I'm around in case I have it. I don't know. So it's insidious. But on a up note, I just want to tell you what a great privilege it's been to be your friend for 42 years, and to have met all the outstanding people that you've crossed paths with, and made me a part of all of that.
Well, you're one of them. You're one of them, and thank you so much. You're my very lovely, wonderful friend, Bob Fleisher. Thank you. Oh yeah, and let's say it together. Let a smile be
your umbrella. Don't get a mouthful of rain.